Hello, everyone. It is I, Ryan, also known as the Lovebat. So I am here back in the arena, basically, doing another one of those Magic the Gathering draft videos, and here is the splash screen for the newest format, Phyrexia All Will Be One. I am not familiar with Phyrexia, or if it's been in any sorts of previous formats, or if this is just like a new version of Phyrexia and like the Magic the Gathering lore, or different cards that are getting reprinted, or creature types that are reappearing again in Magic. So I'm not really familiar with Phyrexia and like the lore, or if there's like been previous Phyrexia sets in Magic the Gathering since I've been in Magic the Gathering Arena. But, you know, I didn't really play Paper Magic for a long time, so maybe at some point in time Phyrexia was a thing and I wasn't around for it at that time. But it's around now and I'm going to be here for it. And so I'm going to go ahead and click in here and get started. And let's go ahead and see if we can get a Phyrexia draft going. And, trying to click the X here. And by the way, I noticed this thing right here, that's some pretty good card art going on there. Maybe not that one. This art right here seems to remind me too much of what Charlie the Unicorn or something like that. Like really parody style art, it almost seems like. But this one right here in the middle there, I really like that one. It kind of reminds me of like traditional Japanese anime art painting style or something like that. Quite love it. Anyway, let's go ahead and not reminisce too much about art that I like, and let's get to the draft here. So you have sealed, premier draft, all this other different stuff. I haven't actually done a sealed draft before. I have watched other people do sealed drafts before. I personally haven't done one before, but I've seen it done, and I kind of know what the general idea is. You basically open a bunch of packs up beforehand, and then you have to choose from all the cards that are opened up and then try and make a deck from it based on all the cards that you open up from a bunch of different card packs. And so you don't really like draft, so to speak. You don't like pick through cards and other people pick through cards, and then you have to try and, you know, pick the right ones and then hope that a card wheels. And this one is just like all the cards are set, and then you just have to pick the best looking deck from all the cards that are available to you. So yeah, I might eventually get to doing a sealed draft once I'm more familiar with the cards and stuff. I am a little bit familiar with them, so I know some of the mechanics that are supposed to be in here, and we're going to do a premier best of one draft to kind of see how we do in the format. Obviously, I'm not expecting to do great with the format still being new and not being truly familiar with the cards. I know some of the mechanics that are in the set, which is, one is Toxic, which kind of brings back the poison mechanic. If you get a bunch of poison counters on your opponent, then they end up losing the game. So that is one mechanic. Proliferate is another one, which basically gives like a creature or something, a creature or a player, I think, an extra counter of any one kind. So it could be like a +1/+1 counter on a creature. It could be the new oil counter mechanic as well. You add an extra oil counter. You could add an extra poison counter on an opponent if you're going for a sort of poison strategy with toxic creature cards and things like that. And there are also like some non-creature spells that are going to add like toxic or proliferate, and so you can get synergies going there. There's also a good number of artifacts in this set, kind of similar to some of the previous few sets, like Kamigawa had a good amount of artifacts in it. I think the Brothers War had also a pretty good amount of artifacts in the set and synergies there. So there's lots of different counters. Corrupted is another mechanic that has to do with poison counters. You get enough poison counters and you get some extra secondary effects for some of the cards, and some. So like Toxic is like the enabler for like poison counters, and then Corrupted is like another payoff for poison counters if you get 3 of them on your opponent. So it's going to be interesting. And then the last one here is for Mirrodin, which is like an equipment kind of synergy, where basically you play an equipment card that's usually in red or white, and then you end up getting a free creature out of it. So the cost of the equipments are a bit higher for the initial cost and the equip cost, but since you get a creature for free out of it, it basically means that you get a slightly buffed up creature that you can also re-equip the equipment to another creature later on in case the creature dies. So interesting sort of synergies that can be had in this set, and interesting archetypes. We'll see if I like it as much as other people seem to be. Some of the YouTubers that I follow seem pretty enthused about this format. So let's go ahead and get things started and see how we do with our first draft for Phyrexia. All right, pack one, pick one here. Let's see what we have. We have a 4/4 Trample Toxic 1, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, proliferate. So you proliferate, and then you can basically give them another poison counter when they do like trample damage to them, so they can't like chump block them. And it's like a 3 mana 4/4 Trample baseline is super strong. Easily worth first taking here. Very good on curve for any creature heavy deck. This is a non-creature spell. Put an oil counter on it. Okay, so this is like a good sort of instance and sorceries or even artifact type deck where you can just put oil counters on stuff. Or you can put an oil counter on it and then do things with that. And there's a counter spell, which is situationally good if you have like a poison deck going in blue. Proliferates. Opponent. Okay, so you can drain out the opponent with that one. I'm definitely going to still first pick that card. It seems so good. Baseline 4/4 Trample is good. Flying Toxic 1, you can go over the top and get poison counters on the opponent. I didn't have a chance to read all the cards there because there's not much time, but this is a very strong card, and I'm very happy to first pick that one. Isn't too much in green here. There is a Toxic 1 with Death Touch. Having Death Touch and Toxic on the same creature can be strong, because then they're forced basically to decide if they want to lose a creature or take poison counters on them. Haste and Toxic 3. This could be pretty good with our curve. You know, you play it out in turn 5, you attack in with both that and a Bloated Contaminator. That could be pretty strong. And then you force them to trade or get poison counters and stuff like that. What does this do? Comes in battlefield with 3 oil counters on it. I'm just going to go ahead and select this one because that seems like a pretty good pick for curve. Draw a card. This is like an artifact deck. This is Toxic 2. Okay, so when it's on a battlefield, draw a card, and it has Toxic. Never mind. Oh, I'm gonna go with the green card. This is a vehicle. At first, I thought it might have been a 4/4 creature, but it's actually a vehicle. So I just want to go ahead and stick with green here. Green Toxic for now. So I don't have a chance to read all of the cards here, so I apologize. Let's just do oil counter on it, and then activate if it has. So you can add mana with it, ramp if it has oil counters on it, and then you can draw a card with some mana, and then you have 5 more oil counters on it. All right, so Proliferate could make that stronger. What does this do if you need for equipment? Yada yada. This is a sacrifice card to draw some cards, so it'd be like red-black sacrifice decks. I assume sacrifice it, draw a card. Okay. I'll go ahead and select this for now. I'm trying to read the cards to see if there's anything else I want. Alright, so this proliferates. This is something that we want in our deck for poison counters, and you can also fix for mana or get yourself some extra lands. So this seems like good in our deck if we want to splash something and maybe decide on a second color here that might splash a third color. Tyvar Stand, it gets XX and hexproof and indestructible. Okay, so this could be pretty strong with our Bloated Contaminator because you can pump it up and it has trample. You can basically guarantee that you get poison damage and you save your creature and you trample in there. And they can't kill it since it has hexproof, and you can't, like, if they have like they could use instant speed removal to get rid of it after you play this and it goes on the stack, but that seems good for our deck. Are there any other cards in other colors? 4/4 Toxic 2 when it enters the battlefield. Okay, so this is actually something that's worth going into a second color for. 4/4 Toxic 2. Baseline, pretty decent, but then you can get a creature card with mana value 3 or less, which includes the Bloated Contaminator. So we can get our Bloated Contaminator back from the graveyard by playing this. So that seems like pretty good to me. So What else do we have in here? Was this toxic 3/2 toxic 1? When it dies, you get a creature token. All right, so this goes with the toxic theme in green-black. And then if the opponent removes it, you still get a 1/1 creature out of it, and we can possibly get a card that is like removal, where you have to sacrifice a creature, and then you can destroy someone else's creature or draw some cards, like that one spell, red spell that we encountered before. 2/3 trample, you get XX. Alright, so that's an oil counter synergy. We're not going to really take that. 2/1 lifelink for 2 mana and artifacts. Okay, so you can pump that up with artifacts. We could take red land if we were in like green-red or red-black, but right now we're not, so I'm just going to stick with the toxic sort of theme for now. What's this? Other creatures control get -1/-1. That doesn't seem very good. I mean, 3/4 baseline is okay, but if you have small tokens or anything like that, or X1 creatures, this is pretty terrible for your deck. What else is in here? There's the battlefield or dies proliferate. That's not bad. Phyrexia Atlas can fix for mana and ramp. I think this is okay. We're in the colors to where fixing and ramping is going to be kind of valuable for us to ramp into these big things, or to maybe fix for a bomb and other colors that cost a lot of mana, perhaps. So, and there are some very good multicolor cards in here that require sometimes 3 or 4 colors of mana to be able to cast them. So having multiple avenues of fixing is going to be good here, I think. 2/2 Flying Corrupted. It has 3 more poison counters. It has Death Touch and lifelink. So this could be good for our deck for the poison counter payoffs. This is a pretty good for a red sort of aggro plan, but not for our deck. This seems good. The rest, this is like the discard hand effect. Whisper of the Dross would be good, but we're going to go ahead and take the sort of poison counter payoff here, where we can just keep on attacking in and gain ourselves life to buy ourselves some time, or trade off with one of their creatures. And then it can also help clear the way for other creatures, since having Death Touch makes it hard to block. Enchanted creature you control, and it has Toxic 2, and then when it dies, return it to the battlefield under your control. That would be pretty awesome to go ahead and put on any of these higher drop creatures, like the Contaminator. You just protect it from removal, and then you just basically get it back from the dead, and then we have the Nimrazer Paladin that can get it back too. Focus on getting back our really good stuff. Whenever you proliferate, okay, so this is another good black card for kind of, we can proliferate the poison counters, and then we can drain our opponent. And 5/5 Death Touch when it enters the battlefield, and they discard. Okay, so that's not bad either. Proliferate here is pretty good. We can probably get some more proliferate cards. We have at least Thirsting Roots. Enters the battlefield or dies, proliferate. Okay, so this is good for our deck. So how many ways do we have to proliferate right now? Right now we only have the Thirsting Roots, but this will proliferate, so we'll go ahead and take this one. Just trying to buy myself some time here so I can look over my cards real quick while making decisions. 3/1 when it enters the battlefield for a mirror card. Okay, that's not really relevant, I guess. I guess we'll take this because it's a corrupted card. I don't know. I guess we'll actually just take this one. We'll just take red. Just, I don't know, an extra red card. And I don't think any of these are really relevant for us all that much. Because red-black might still be an option in the future, so we'll just take some of the red cards here. Alright, so this is more mana fixing and ramp, so we might as well take this, and has the corrupted synergies as well. So having multiples of these, I mean, could be playable. So yeah, we can ramp and fix with this and drain our opponent when we tap it. So what's this? 6 mana and completed. Draw a card and you lose 1 life. Proliferate. Okay. Target creature becomes a treasure artifact to sacrifice this artifact. Add 1 mana of any color. Okay. Not exactly sure. I mean, we could get some 1/1 tokens, it's possible, and then if target player has fewer than 9 poison counters, they get a number of poison counters equal to the difference. Okay, so you can get some people more poison counters. Alright, so that's worth taking here. Battery Rebirth. I put an oil counter. So that's oil counter synergies. Trying to look at what can wheel here. That's that card again. Sacrifice an artifact or creature. And then there's a green card down there they didn't have a chance to get a look at. But this can, at the very least, proliferate and get you some card advantage. And then we have, what is it? There's something here. This thing can get us some life back if we proliferate. So having both the Aspirant and Vraska out means we can just drain the opponent, proliferate, offset the life loss that we get from it. Alright, so put target creature card from graveyard in the battlefield under your control and proliferate. Okay, so that seems pretty on brand for what we're doing. And I believe that proliferate can actually increase the number of loyalty counters on a planeswalker as well. So that's basically what you do with this, is that you proliferate and you get some more loyalty counters that way on your planeswalker. What does this do? Nefarious Noxious Assault. +2/+2 until end of turn. Whenever the creature blocks this turn, the creature gets a... Alright, so I'm hoping that that card wheels, because that's probably going to be good for our deck. But I think that Vat Emergence, with some of these other creatures that we already have, is going to be very, very strong for us. And it proliferates, which is basically just what we want. So, proliferate and toxic are what we're looking for. Quick creature has toxic 1. Okay. That could be interesting. Go and take that. And then this thing, I don't think it's... Yeah, it only goes for creatures, okay. But that's still okay with the -2 ability, but not great. But Annihilating Glare, you can sacrifice an artifact or a creature, and you can destroy them, okay. So, do we want to go with this for toxic or this for removal? I'm going to go for the toxic, and I'm going to hope that the removal wheels. Maybe we'll get some removal on the wheel here, since some cards seem to be coming around. And I like the toxic plan that we're on. This thing giving anything toxic means that any big fat creature that we can get out just gets toxic if we get something good here. Alright, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand and proliferate. This can also end up getting us back one of those green lands or something like that. Or one of those sacrifice the land, draw a card permanent. So that can be good for that too. Let's just do reach and proliferate. Okay, well, it's a sacrifice card, but maybe not what we're looking for. And then this, can we go ahead and give them toxic and hexproof until end of turn? Okay. But yeah, I still like this card. I think it's going to be good to just get our bomby type cards back to get them back into play, basically. We can get the Vraska back. We can go ahead and get the Bloated Contaminator back, Nimrazer Paladin back, and then we can use the Nimrazer Paladin to get something else back when it enters the battlefield. So, kind of a 2-for-1 special there. Slight removal and proliferate. We can just select that for now and then look at the other cards. When it enters the battlefield, create a 3/3 colors Phyrexia creature artifact tokens. So this is good for the blue-white sort of artifact deck, it looks like. There's a Skull Bomb I didn't have a chance to get a look at because I didn't know if it was in our colors or not. Let's see, this is the Draw Spits. This can draw us a card. This is one of those sacrifice to draw card lands. Menace, Toxic 2. That's okay, but not great for a Menace creature. You definitely want to have it be like a 4/2 Menace, Toxic 2 instead to force them to trade. Okay, so this is decent enough. We can possibly get this as instant speed removal and give them a poison counter. Rather take that over the land for now, since proliferate is going to be good in our deck for the theme that we have going. Another one of the Bone Picker Scourges. I think this is pretty good. We have a lot of 3-drops right now, but this is also a 3-drop sorcery. Destroy target creature or flying. So yeah, that's more of a sideboard card in best of 3, so we'll just go with the Bone Picker Scourge again. Nothing really here seems to be worth splashing. This is pretty good for toxic, but I'm kind of looking for something that seems kind of bomby to splash, if anything. Oil counters, we're not really doing anything with this for now, I think. I mean, you can get creature cards back, and we do have plenty of proliferate, so maybe this is worth playing for now. Fleshless Gladiator, Corrupted. Okay, so I could have gone with the other card, but I think Vat of Rebirth, considering all the proliferate that we have, is still possibly makes the deck here. Sacrifice an artifact or creature. Okay, so we're probably not playing that. We can go ahead and take this as sort of like a high mana thing that we can ramp into. I think it's going to be worth it for our curve as well. Alright, so I don't think that's going to be making the deck even if we take it. So we're just going to go ahead and see if there's anything interesting here for Toxic. Tap creature. Yeah, interesting cards, but I don't think that we're going to be playing any of these. So, Testament Bearer dies. Get top 3 cards of your library. One of your hand, the rest in your graveyard. Okay, so it's like a milling type thing. This removes and proliferates, so let's go ahead and just take that. Another Skull Bomb I didn't have a chance to look at because I'm not taking the time to read the cards as much as I probably should. Okay, so if enchanted creature is toxic against hexproof. Alright, so this is going to be decent for our deck, so let's go and take that and we'll consider it for Mirrodin equipment, and then Chimney Rabble in red. And we got our draw spits anyway, so that's kind of nice. Alright, so what does this do? Sheoldred the Apocalypse. Death Touch, you draw a card, you gain 2 life. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. So this can basically just drain out the opponent each turn, and if they don't have removal for it or a way to deal with it, they're basically dead. You just eventually drain them out. So, yeah, so it's like at the start of your turn and at the start of their turn, you're getting life, and then they're being drained of life. So, awesome first pick. This would go great for our deck because that's toxic, but this can kill the opponent on its own, and they have to have removal for it. So we're just going to go with that. Another toxic creature. So I hope that one of these creatures wheels, because the Paladin, we have some ways to ramp into it. So if that comes on the wheel, I will be very pleased. But yeah, I'm very happy with this. It's a 4 mana card, 4/5 Death Touch. That alone is great. But draining the opponent is going to be super awesome. What does this do? Battle Cry. Whenever it attacks, each other attacking creature gets pumped. Would be better if we had more trample on our deck, but I don't think that this is worth splashing in white. I could be wrong. Put this in the sideboard there. But it can make toxic creatures. What does this do? I guess we'll see more oil counters. I guess I'll go and take this because it goes pretty well with a toxic deck. I'll see if it's worth splashing and read it a bit more at the end of the draft here, or when we finish drafting and get the deck building. Enters battlefield with 3 oil counters on it. Or remove. Alright, so you can 4 mana, 3/3 artifact creature. Can go with proliferate. So Tucker-Regine's Death Touch and Indestructible. Okay, so that could be a good combat trick with like the death, or with the trample or toxic creatures there. Could get another Bone Picker Scourge, +4/+4 could go well if we have more trample. I think we're just going to go with the Bone Picker Scourge here. And just go for more of the corrupted synergies. They fly over the top. We need some more 2-drops. I'm hoping we come across some. What is this? Here's a bomb in white. Not what we're looking for, though. Not something I would splash white mana for. There's a battlefield. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Land card among them. Put it in your hand. You didn't put a card in your hand. This way, proliferate. So it's decent. It's another 3-drop, but we could use a 2-drop. But this isn't really synergistic for the deck, so I don't want to force myself to take a 2-drop that doesn't really go for deck other than being better for the curve. So let's see if there's anything good here. Here's the red one, but we're not splashing red, so we're not going to go with the red Skull Bomb. The black Skull Bomb, if we got it, would be very good for the deck, but I'm not sure if we're going to get one here. Rascal's Fall. And gets Poison Counter. Yeah, I think this is probably best for us. We'll just go and take this one. We could just pick an uncommon for the vault there, but that might make the deck, so we'll see. Another Testament Bearer that I'm not going to play. Cinder/Ravager. Is this worth splashing? Well, let's cash with oil counters on it. So this is an oil counter synergy card. 5/5 Vigilance. I mean, it's not bad, but not great. I mean, it is an uncommon, so maybe I'll just take an uncommon for the vault here. So I didn't see anything else in there that would have been worth taking for our deck. So Here's a 2-drop, and there's, okay, this is an oil counter card. But it is a sort of, you can pump a creature before combat with it. 3/2 Toxic 1, or this is the, when it dies, creature that we have. So let's just take that off the deck. Alright, so Ravenous Necrotician, or Necrotitan. Corrupted, when it enters the battlefield, sacrifice a creature. Alright, so if we get poison counters, we can get this on the field as a 4-mana 6/6, so that seems pretty good. Again, it's not going to be a 2-drop or anything, but if we can ramp into something, then, I mean, it's still going to be good. There's a battlefield or dies, proliferate. And then this one. So which one do we want more? I could uncommon, or there aren't any uncommons here. Let's just take the Scrap Trap. Might make the deck, since it proliferates twice, basically. Get the 2-drop in case we need it. We're just going to take the Scamp and an uncommon for the vaults here. This is an oil counter synergy, so I'll just go ahead and take maybe the best card here, I guess. It's this one. Nothing here that I'm going to play. Last pick uncommon. Interesting. All right. So we have an interesting little deck here of lots of toxic and proliferate synergies. And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. We did not end up with too many early plays here. But we do have Thirsting Roots for mana fixing and proliferate later on. So let's see how we're doing here. Nothing worth splashing over here. I don't think that the Cinder Slash Ravagers were splashing, because we only have one thing with oil counters that we would consider playing. I think it was the Artifact or something like that. I can't remember which one. Not that one. Vat of Rebirth. Vat of Rebirth is the only thing that has oil counters to make this cheaper. Yeah, so I don't think this is... Like, this is a good card as far as a fat creature that we can keep attacking in with, and maybe we can equip it with the Prosthetic Injector or find ways to give it... we have some combat tricks, if I remember correctly. We have this one. So we can give it another +2/+2. Any other ways to pump it, perhaps? Yeah, I guess maybe it's not good enough to be in the deck. No synergy. At best, it's a 5-mana, 5/5 vigilance creature, basically. So, I mean, it does deal damage to your creature, to your opponent's creatures, but that's usually only good if the opponent's going wide with lots of token creatures. Which there are some token sorts of generation decks, but it's not like a guaranteed thing. It's like more of a sideboard card for that. So we have to make some cuts here. So I don't want to get rid of much of my early plays. Copper Longlegs, I mean, it's a good defensive creature to slow down, like, if we're playing against, like, a mirror match where we are playing against a deck that wants to get in with lots of toxic, then Copper Longlegs can be okay-ish. But the problem is that many of the toxic decks also have creatures of Death Touch in them. And so if they have Death Touch, then the Copper Longlegs is really bad. So, because then they can attack in with like a 1/1 Death Toucher and kill my Copper Longlegs, or they can attack in with like a 2/2 Death Toucher and kill the Longlegs. So, yeah, at the end of the day, this is, again, more of a sideboard card. If we were in best of 3, then I could consider sideboarding it in if the opponent had, like, a bunch of flying creatures that we needed to slow down. This is good. Basic buff and gives Toxic 1 to any of our big fatties. Like, this guy right here getting Toxic would be pretty good. Then they have Death Touch and Toxic, so that would be pretty strong, I would think. See, this is definitely good to get some of our big fat creatures back. This is very good. And then this also gives Toxic. So we have 2 ways to give Toxic, and they're fairly low mana. So that's good. Let's see. This is going to be good. Proliferate, and it gives us a cheap... Either it's a cheap combat trick, or it's also cheap removal. It can go well against... there's a good number of 1 toughness flying creatures, or there's a 3 mana Drake card that I saw that starts off as a 1/1 creature, and then it gets bigger when you play like non-creature spells. So Whisper of the Dross would be pretty good against those flying creature decks. Vat of Rebirth, I don't know if we really want to keep this. Like, we have a lot of proliferate, but I'm not sure if we have enough to really justify, doing this. Like, it does, like, yeah, it's possible that we're gonna end up losing creatures at some point, but that's the only way to put an oil counter on it in the first place, and you have to lose creatures to basically put oil counters on it, and then you have to do that at least once, and then you can proliferate the oil counters. So I don't know. Let me see what else is around here. Yeah, so proliferate is any number of permanents. Okay, so you can have it give an extra counter to all of your permanents and not just one. Okay. At least if I'm understanding the text of proliferate correctly, you can give like an extra +1/+1 counter to a creature, as well as an extra like poison counter to the other player, and then another oil counter to this thing with the same effect, like the same spell, I mean. So maybe in that case Vat of Rebirth is okay. I need to count up how many, like, I don't know if it's in the deck layout, or not the deck layout, but the information, if there's like, yeah, it doesn't tell you how many cards that you have with proliferate. We have lots of Phyrexians, apparently. All of our creatures, I guess, are Phyrexians in their card type, which is interesting. Not a synergy or anything like that, but it is interesting. So so let's see. This is 1, 2, 3. So 3, 4. I guess technically 5. 6 with the Planeswalker. 7. 8, 9. And I guess this is like multiple instances of proliferate too, potentially. So I guess conservatively I would say there's about 9 ways to proliferate. I don't know, we can try Vat of Rebirth. It is a low mana play. We have lots of 3-drops here. We gotta consider what we want to keep here. So it's a 3 mana 2/2 combat trick that can potentially give hexproof. Not all of our creatures have Toxic though, but I mean, some of the creatures that do have Toxic are very valuable to us, so maybe for that reason it's worth it. See, that has Toxic. This is a Corrupted synergy there. Yeah, so we want to keep as much Toxic and proliferate as possible. Let's see, Antitoxin. Prevent that damage. Okay, so now if I'm reading this card correctly, basically what this card does is it gives you a bunch of tokens, and then the goal is to go wide with the tokens and then just poison kill your opponent instead of dealing damage to them, if I'm understanding correctly. So next, deal combat damage to one or more players. You prevent the damage. So it's like if you end up dealing like, I'm not sure if I'm reading the card correctly, but if I understand this card, basically you end up making like, if you deal 4 damage to your opponent on a turn with your creatures, then you would end up getting 4 1/1 tokens of Toxic, if I'm understanding that correctly, and then you go in and try and poison your opponent for the win. That might be worth splashing. I mean, it's more Toxic creatures. It's always good. So, you know, that's could end up doing some work for us there. I mean, haste is good, especially when it has Toxic. A 5 mana 4/4 creature isn't all that great, but Toxic 3 is pretty strong. I like this one because it goes pretty well with the prosthetic injector and the, what is it, I think there's another thing we had in here. This one, the Communion, that can also give Toxic. So, yeah, maybe the Maze's Mantle isn't good enough here. I mean, it's still 3 mana to give like hexproof to a creature. It is a +2/+2 buff, and for that reason it can be strong on the Contaminator here, but I'm still trying to figure out what we cut here because it's kind of, I don't know, maybe the Vat of Rebirth just isn't good enough here. We just have to make some cuts, and it's not Toxic, so we have to find things that fit with the deck as far as synergy goes. Let's go ahead and cut 2 Plainses since we only really need 1. We have 1 Plains, we have the Thirsting Roots, and we have 2 Atlases for fixing and ramp, which I think that the ramp is still going to be useful here because we have lots of higher mana plays here. And then you can go ahead and potentially drain your opponent when you have enough poison counters. So I think that I'm still going to keep the Atlas. And it is worth splashing this. So let's see, we'll do... This kind of counts as a land. So it would be 14, 15, 16 lands right now, but I definitely want enough green mana for the Thirsting Roots turn 1 if I need the fixing. So let's see, we do have a good amount of double black. We have 1, 2, 3 double black. We have some double green, but only 1 double green. Double black is definitely more important for the cards that are the bomb cards that we have in black. So yeah, I think maybe going with 17 lands is probably okay here. We don't really have many mana sinks as far as I can tell. We have some tap abilities, but no real mana abilities. So I don't know. 17 lands is a bit risky to flood out because we don't have a lot of card draw except for our Planeswalker for the most part. Maybe just going with 7 black with one of them being a tapped land because we only have 1 creature in black that's like 2 mana or less, so having a tapped land on turn 1 or turn 2, not the worst thing in black. Yeah, so let's just go with 7 black, and then if we need black mana, Thirsting Roots kind of counts as a black mana if we need it for fixing. And then we can also get the white mana with that as well for the Rhea Evor that we're splashing. This can also give some black mana as well. So yeah, again, we have lots of double black. We have other ways to get black mana. Thirsting Roots, 2 Atlases. That seems like it's good enough to me. So what else do we cut? We have lots of 3 drops, so we should probably get rid of some of them because you don't want a bunch of 3 drops. Instant speed, but it is a sacrifice effect, so the opponent, if they have a bunch of tokens, they can sacrifice a token, and we don't really get much value out of it, so let's get rid of one of those. This is another way to proliferate, and you can rummage for land, but 3 mana 3/3 is not bad. You can get an extra land card for some semi-card advantage. Maybe ensures that you hit a land drop or you at least proliferate. I don't know, maybe Maze's Mantle just isn't good enough here because we already have like strong creatures that we want to go ahead and get in with. I mean, this does make the strong creatures even better, but if an opponent has removal, it gets much, much worse. Because then what they can do is they can just play removal after you no longer have hexproof and then kill it that way. Yeah, maybe we just go ahead and do this. 3 mana combat trick that gives +2/+2, maybe not the best thing for us. Again, it is great with the Contaminator to make it bigger. And that's certainly valid. So, I don't know. Let's see. What else do we have that we could get rid of? This makes 3/2 toxic that can make a toxic creature if it dies. Okay, well, it's kind of hard to make cuts here because there's lots of cards here that I kind of want. I mean, it's just a tough decision. This is good because you can give it toxic with these 2 cards right here and make it a big threat. It has toxic and death touch, and we have the ability to ramp into it. Maybe we just get rid of another Vraska's Fall. Rely a bit more on the creatures to give the poison counters and keep one of these just in case. And then we still have some decent removal aside from that. We want as much proliferate as possible for the aspirant to drain the opponent. And then this can also drain the opponent. And this synergizes very well when we get some poison counters going. Granted, we don't have any low mana creatures that can get toxic, so maybe these are a bit too slow because they're not going to be... It's very unlikely that they're going to have corrupted if I play them on turn 3. Like, I don't think that's going to be happening because we don't have any low mana creatures that can get in toxic damage. Yeah, so maybe get rid of 1 Scourge. Mainly just because on turn 3 it's not going to have corrupted yet, so it's just a 3 mana 2/2 flyer at that point. It'll be great later on if we draw into 1, but not going to be so good on turn 3 because the opponent's like, there's a good amount of flying creatures in this set, so it's possible that it's not going to be able to get in there for at least a couple turns until after you play it, basically. So on turn 3, you'd have to wait until turn 4 or turn 5 probably to really be able to get the corrupted value off of it. Yeah, so this is like the only early play that we have that can really get toxic. We can play it out turn 1, and maybe by turn 3 we get a creature out, and then we can maybe equip to the creature on turn 4. That's like the earliest I can think of for toxic. So we have like a lot of toxic, but none of them are low mana on the low curve side, so this is more of a buy some time and then try and get to your big stuff and ramp into them with the Atlas. Yeah, so maybe we do kind of need Copper Longlegs because we need to buy time with this deck because we don't really have anything else that's really going here. We don't really have any low curve creatures to buy time. Maybe 4/4 Toxic 3 for 5 mana isn't good enough, and then we just add in the long legs to buy us time for the more bomby type creatures. Unfortunately, we didn't wheel that 6/7 Toxic 6 blue, green creature that we could have as like an endgame finisher for Toxic, but it happens. So was hoping I could wheel it, but I guess someone else was kind of like, oh, that's looking like a juicy card, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. Let's bring in the long legs. I think I just need it a bit too much. We need a low mana creature that can block. And you can sacrifice it to proliferate, which is pretty decent later on. You can do like a chump block with it to prevent damage or toxic, and then you can sacrifice it afterwards to proliferate. What's the final cut here? Maybe it's just this Hive Master. We probably want to cut a 3-drop because we have so many 3-drops here. It could be the Vorak. It could be the Hive Master, which is 3/2 Toxic 1. Not bad. Gets pretty good with the Prosthetic Injector as well to give it some more toughness. But we could use like the Prosthetic Injector on maybe the Bone Picker Scourge to give it Toxic, or we could use it on the Vorak to give it Toxic. There's probably better targets for the Injector and the Communion here. Because we don't really have anything where we would want to sacrifice the Hive Master to get value. Basically, only the Vraska can get value off of the Hive Master. Yeah, because like Vraska is, and this, like, I don't know, like, I don't think it's enough value here to really play more than one. One is fine. It has a way to protect from removal and get some value if the opponent tries to kill it, but I think at the end of the day that's going to be good enough with 14 creatures, so yep, this will have to do. Let's go ahead and do green, black, green, black, Toxic. Is there any other keywords I want to put in there? Probably not. Green, black, Toxic Fumes. Let's do that one. Number 1. There we go. Alright, so we have an interesting Toxic deck here, and no Britney Spears added. We don't need Britney Spears for this deck and her Toxic song, but we're going to go ahead and make do, and I think it is a really good deck. But it does have one critical weakness. We don't really have many early mana plays as far as creatures to buy time or get Toxic in there, so we're more of a late game kind of deck. So we're going to see if this works out the way that I'm hoping that it does, and I will go ahead and see you guys for round 1. Alright, well that didn't take long. Our opponent has arrived. Looks like someone with a ninja avatar there. Yuchiro also sounds kind of like a ninja name, so very fitting. Okay, so black mana with black spells, and we have the Necrotician here, so... But we're not going to have any early poison counters on the opponent, I don't think, so... Could sacrifice a Bone Picker Scourge if we wanted to, just to get this thing out. Not having green mana is pretty rough, but we have like 8 sources of green mana plus the atlases that can fix for green, so I think we're going to keep this. We'll play out white first, just to see if it kind of throws the opponent off here to see white instead of like green or something. So the opponent might think from our color combination so far that we're like a white-black, sort of like oil counter or toxic deck, so can't remember if white-black has oil counter synergies in it or not, or however many it has. So this thing, okay. Dune Mover. Alright, so they're going to try and fix for some black mana, it looks like. So we could just play the Vorak and try and ensure that we get like a land drop. I think it's pretty reasonable here. Yeah, let's just go and get the Vorak out. And see if we can hit a land here. Right. Proliferates isn't going to be doing anything for us here, sadly. Was more hoping to just hit on a land card there to get 5 mana. Looks like they have some card draw. Poison counter isn't too relevant yet. Once we get 3 poison counters on us, then things start turning into trouble, but for now it looks okay. So what should we do? We can do this and sacrifice the Vorak. But if I'm going to do that, I would like to attack with the Vorak first and see if we can get some damage in there. Yeah, let's attack in first and see if they block or if they just take the damage here. Okay, they're going to take it. So we attack in with that, and then we go ahead and play this since we're not getting poison counters anytime soon, so... Trading a 3-3 for a 6-6, I still think that's worth it. We weren't going to be getting out poison counters anytime soon, and what's the Archfiend do here? There's a battlefield of 4 oil counters on it, so remove an oil counter at the beginning of your upkeep. Alright, so they're going to try and proliferate to keep this thing from losing them the game. Thankfully, I can possibly have them chump block with a Dune Mover, then I can play Vraska's Fall after to make them sacrifice their Archfiend. Because otherwise they take 6 damage and I doubt that they take it. Yeah, let's go and attack in here and let's hope that they chump block and then we can do Vraska's Fall. Okay, they're not going to take it. But they are down to 9 life, so... we can get the Bone Picker Scourge out to chump block the Archfiend, then go in for 6/6 damage again, if we want. Yeah, they're just going to sacrifice a 2/1. We have to find a way to get something out here to stop the 6/6 from just getting in there, so... at the very least, the Scourge can chump block the Archfiend, so... and there's a battlefield, search your library. Okay, so we can get rid of the Dune Mover, so that way we can eventually kill the Archfiend with Vraska's Fall. I think that's probably more valuable for us, so we need to get rid of the Archfiend. Losing life is not really much consequence right now, since we just need to kill the Archfiend and we're going to be okay. I think we still attack in here. You can also play the Vraska here, draw a card and lose 1 life. Yeah, so I could Vraska to try and draw their attention to my Planeswalker here. Losing 1 life is definitely not good for drawing a card. They would deal 10 damage and then Yeah, so it's only whenever a creature dies, so they would bring us down to a low life total. But I can also just attack in here, so... let's attack in first, I think, and see if they block. Okay. Okay, so now let's do this. Yep, let's just pay the mana. Oh, target creature. This can be used on an opponent's creature. Ah. Okay. Let's go ahead and do this. I was not reading that feature correctly. Yeah, so that's a really awesome removal there. I forgot to read the card correctly. Can target an opponent's creature and take them out of the game. Okay. So yeah, that's a lot better than I first gave it credit for. I mean, it's still an awesome card, even if I didn't read that ability correctly, but yeah, that is, I didn't realize how strong that was. I forgot to read the fact that you could do it to an opponent's creature and take them out of the game, so... I mean, yeah, they can ramp or fix with this thing, but if they're only 2 colors and they don't have any cards in hand, it doesn't really make much of a difference, so... Like, unless they have like a combat trick or instant speed removal, it probably isn't going to matter that much having that extra mana, so... Plus, this would be more dangerous on the field anyway, and I'd be dead if it weren't for that, so... So we do want to use this first, and then use Vraska's Fall to clear the way. Well, they would just sacrifice the convert in that case. Let's draw a card first. Let's see if we draw anything interesting here that we can play first. Let's go ahead and just do that. What? No, I don't want to target myself. Come on, there we go. At first I didn't know if it had me targeted yet or not, so that's why I was kind of confused there. There's the battlefield tapped. So let's attack in with Vraska's Fall, or not Vraska's Fall, attack in with the Necrotitan first here. Okay, so it's going to proliferate and add extra toxic to me, I imagine. Yada yada. Spore Slinger is going to be Vigilance. Alright, so it's enter the battlefield effect and it has Vigilance, so nothing too special there. Okay, well, let's end the turn here. Yeah, that's just an artifact, so it doesn't really make any difference. It can't sacrifice it to the Vraska's Fall. But we could save our Planeswalker by doing Vraska's Fall now. Might be worth it. Yeah, let's just go and do this now. And we can proliferate to get extra poison counters this way. Okay, it's only a 3/3, another 3/3. And it says flashbacks, so okay. Kind of flooding out here, so I might want to proliferate before combat. Or draw the card and proliferate, basically. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. And then I think, yep, them and them. That should be good. And then this will make a nice blocker. So let's go ahead and... I guess we attack in first and see how they block. We can also go ahead and do this where we can draw a card first and see if we draw like some removal, combat trick or anything like that. Okay, proliferate. Let's attack in first and see what they do here. It would be good to save my Planeswalker, but I think I want to keep up the pressure here. They would have to double block with their 3/3s to do anything here. Okay, so they're going to take it. That means we can get out either this or this. So I think I'm going to do this first for a good blocker. And so I can block one of the 3/3s pretty effectively. And so I don't know if they'll choose to attack in with everything or not because they have so little life. If they have removal for the Rhea Evor, then they can deal 8 damage to us. So that's probably what they do if they have removal. So they nearly tap out to clear the way. So I don't know if they kill the Planeswalker then deal some damage to us. But they can't really attack in with much because they have a 6/6. So they have to have at least one blocker staying back. Alright, so we want to play, let's go and get our land out, and then we play this first, and then we put this into the battlefield to proliferate. Yep, let's just go and do that. Force them to chump. I don't think that their blocking assignments would have been any different even if we attacked and then played the creatures post-combat, so they had the block anyway. They should kill the Aspirant because otherwise we drain them out, potentially. But they're going to go for the 6/6, so that's very risky. Okay, well, GG's. I mean, there weren't a whole lot of good choices for them there because all I have to do is proliferate once and I basically kill them, but yeah, I guess they just didn't think that they were going to be able to come back on this one, or they thought, oh, I might have something I can proliferate with next turn, so... I mean, if I were them, I still would have stayed in the game because 1 life is definitely not good, but there would still be a chance to try and sort of, you know, outlast me a little bit, so... Since they had creatures on the field and I didn't have many on the field, so... But, happy to get a first win here with this new format, and so let's go ahead and move on to round 2. And what do you know, I didn't even have to pause the recording there because it was snooze sentence waiting for us, so... Let's see what we have here. So we have Vat Emergence, it's more late game. So we get the Bloated Contaminator out turn 3, and we might, I don't know, we don't really have any early plays anyway, so this isn't too bad of a hand, honestly. We have the mana that we need for the Contaminator. Then after that, we might eventually get enough mana for Vat Emergence if they have removal for the Contaminator. And then late game, I can get this out and maybe give it Toxic with some of the cards that can give it Toxic, so... It's a slow hand, but I'm going to keep it. Most of our hands are going to be kind of slow anyway, so let's just get out our bomb card that can proliferate. And then if they have removal, we can just get it back. So let's start off with black first. Could start off with green first, but it doesn't really matter that much, I guess, so kind of irrelevant. So do green now. This is a pretty good draw to help out our curve a bit. Okay. You know, so it doesn't have haste, but we'll go ahead and just we'll just go and play it anyway here. Don't think it really matters. There's no 1 mana removal that can take care of it, so. Alright, I guess I should rephrase. There's like no 1 mana removal that can kill this without them like sacrificing a creature or something like that in black, for example. Anyway, anyway, let's see. Basilisk with Death Touch and Toxic. So this is one of those Death Touch Toxic creatures I was talking about that's very bad for our long legs. It doesn't block them very effectively. But we do have the Apocalypse out here. So I can get rid of their Basilisk and have them trade for the Contaminator. And then I can get back my Contaminator with the Vat Emergence. Yeah, that actually seems like a decent idea. So let's go ahead and go to combat. See how they block here, if they want to kill the long legs or for free, or if they want to kill the Contaminator now. Let's see if they take the bait to kill the long legs. They do. I'm happy with that. Alright. Well, I'm not so happy anymore. Do they want to take the free kill of the creature or not? Looks like they're going for the big gun. We shall proliferate. And then we shall play the Apocalypse, and then next turn we do Vat Emergence to get back the Contaminator here. So they could have removal. In that case, we still Vat Emergence next turn, so really of no consequence for the most part. I mean, it would be nice, obviously, to have both the Shell Red and the Contaminator, but you know, if they had removal, they're going to use it on something anyway, so. Black usually has a good amount of removal in this set, so if the opponent's playing black, it's very likely that they have some in their deck. Nice emote that you have there. It wasn't so nice for opponent, however, because I don't know if they flooded out. Maybe they were color screwed. I have no idea. Let me check the battlefield again. I mean, it does look like they're playing sort of a mirror match here. And they could have sacrificed that to draw a card and try and get them out of whatever mess that they were in. Maybe they didn't have removal for the Shell Dread and they figured, okay, they're going to drain me out at some point and I'm not going to win, but you never know, honestly. So that's kind of an early concede in my opinion, but oh well. I mean, I would have wanted to play that one out and see what they had in mind and see how the mirror match goes, but you know, that's just the way it goes. They figured that they couldn't win, so maybe that's just kind of what bomb cards do, is that they get opponents, they get the opponents to think, oh, I can't beat that, not with what I have in hand, and then they just early concede. So I like to play to the bitter end until I can't possibly win, so I'm just a little bit, I'm built like that. So no pause needed again. Our next opponent is right around the corner, so let's get right to it. So we have this to get back one of our creatures. We have no early plays, however, so this might be a bit too slow. But we are on the draw and we're bound to draw something, I hope. Yeah, this is a very dangerous hand because it's great to have this with some of these, but I needed like a 2-drop or a 3-drop. Or, you know, something like that. A 5-drop being the earliest play, I think, is way too risky. So I think I have to mull this. This is even worse. This happened to me in my ninja deck, too, that I did for Kamigawa. I had to mulligan several times because the first mull I had only like a 1-land opening hand that I couldn't keep, so mull again. If that had that 1 mana green card that can fix you for mana and get a land, then that previous hand would have been keepable, but without it, I can't. So this is a keep, though. We have the Sheldred and the Ravenous Necrotitan and the Contaminator. So this is the... We'll get rid of the Vorak. I don't really have anything to sacrifice to the Necrotitan, so... I think I have to put the Necrotitan on the bottom here because I don't have anything to sacrifice to it. So we'll go with the 2 creatures that we know we're going to get value off of. Let's just go ahead and play white first to throw them off the scent. We don't have like any, you know, multicolor early plays, so it doesn't really matter if I play out the plains first in this case. So again, I'm just trying to throw my opponent off the scent here to make him think that we're in a different archetype. Looks like they're in like a red-blue artifact-y type deck, I'm assuming. Artifacts and oil counters, I would assume. I know that red and blue have a good amount of oil counter synergies in it, and they have a pretty good number of artifacts as well. So, do we play the Scourge first to block the 1/1 and possibly trade for the Forge Hammer, then play the Contaminator next turn? Or maybe play the Sheldred and have the other creatures eat removal, and then we can have the Contaminator get in there. Yeah, I think I'd rather have these other creatures eat removal instead of the Contaminator. Because like the Contaminator can't really attack in right now. They can just double block and kill it. So let's just do the Lone Picker Scourge first. That can at least block better. Looks like they're a very aggressive artifact type deck. I mean, it's an aggressive deck in general, obviously, but... Alright, so can't block. That's a very bad sign. So the target creature cannot block thing. So it's this one that move oil counter submit and then target creature can't block. Okay, so we definitely need a blocker here. Yeah, so I think we just get the Sheldred out. Oh, Jesus Christ. I played the wrong mana for the Sheldred. I was not thinking correctly there. I really needed some life. I made a huge mistake. We might lose the match anyway because they're just too aggro here for us to handle, but yeah, I think we need to keep that back to block one of them. We need to kill the Centurion as soon as possible to slow them down. Alright, I think that's a game, set, match, unfortunately. Had the right removal that they needed. That's very good against toxic creatures. We can't block, and I think we are just kind of dead here. So. Too much aggro, too much of the time. Yeah, so an aggro deck can definitely kill us here, and I almost played the wrong land again, so... Yeah, that was a big mistake, because if I would have gotten the Sheldred out first, they could have done instant speed kill it after combat is over, or after blocks have been assigned. But I would have been able to kill one of their dudes. That's kind of making it difficult to win here. So I'll play this out for posterity, and let's go out swinging here. And we shall concede and not waste their time. So yeah, that was a bit of a rough one. We got out aggroed by the aggro deck. This obviously is not an aggro deck, but they were able to kind of rush us a little bit and prevent us from blocking and trading with any of their creatures. So, and that mistake to not get out the Sheldred kind of cost me the game there. It might have been a losing battle anyway, but that cost me the game because I played out the wrong mana and I couldn't play it. So it happens. Mistakes happened. Mistakes were made. Just add it to the list of mistakes I made. So it happens. Or as the Forrest Gump shirt once said in that movie, shit happens. So, okay. We have green and black. We don't have the white for the Reavor, but if we mulligan, we're going to go down to 6 cards anyway, and I'd rather just go and keep this because I have a 2-drop. I have a 3-drop spell, and then I can get back the Scheming Aspirant with the Restoration if it gets killed by removal, so worth keeping. Reavor might come into play later on in the game when I get some fixing for it. Let's play the tap land first. Alright, let's go ahead and get the Aspirant out. Looks like they have something holding priority here, so I don't know what it would have been. Maybe it's like a card draw. If it was card draw, they would have used it last turn. I don't know, maybe it's some other instant speed green removal of some kind, or something else that removes the... Could be a blue mana or return target creature to its owner's hand type spell that they have in their hand. So what do we do? Do we have it sacrifice their golem, which is a pretty decent creature, and then proliferate and drain them a little bit? I think we do. Let's do this pre-combat so that way we can attack in for 1/3. Oh, never mind. This does not proliferate. It gives a poison counter, but this will proliferate if we lose a creature, so... But yeah, that's going to add a poison counter. Now we can proliferate to add more poison counters to them, so... Synergistically speaking, still good, but we need a way to get a toxic creature out. We need either white mana, or we need to get one of our toxic creatures into our hand. That's not what I'm looking for. We can draw... Let's draw the card pre-combat and see what we draw here. Yep, I want to keep the forest in case I draw the 1 mana green spell for mana or something else. So let's just attack in. I could have that 5 mana 4/4 haste toxic creature, but I wouldn't really count on it in green-blue as far as toxic goes. And again, I stand corrected. They have a toxic creature here that's pretty awesome. I would have been happy to splash for this if we ended up finding one. So, toxic 1, and then they can just proliferate and drain you with poison counters, essentially. So, proliferate one after the other to get you to 10 poison counters. And Razor Paladin would be okay, but I'm not going to get value off of it as far as getting a creature back. Yeah, so I'm not really sure what to do here. Let's just play out that and pass for the time being. Next turn I'll play out a black mana, so that way in case we have one of our double black cards come up, then I can play those. Okay, so what is this? For Mirrodin. Strong creature with trample for 6 mana, and then they can equip it to something else to give it a big buff and trample. This would have been pretty good for our deck. Not gonna lie. It kind of sucks that we have to deal with a 6/6 trample creature now, but yeah, not looking good. Not looking good. So, how do I want to... Like, we're not going to get any value off of the Paladin if we play it now, but I might have to force them to think about the toxic that we're going to inflict on them. The Unnatural Restoration can get our Aspirant back at the very least, and it... So, yeah, let's just go ahead and play the Paladin now. That way we can still hit them on the backswing here. No attacks. So yeah, what I'm hoping here is that they keep their 6/6 back to block the 4/4 that can toxic them to death. Looks like they're going for card advantage right now. They could proliferate with their observer. Yep, so they are keeping their 6/6 back, as I predicted. Now they have a blocker for the 4/4, so now they won't. They'll probably attack next turn with their 6/6. Alright, so we do not have the mana or the cards that we need because we are flooding. No white mana for the Reavor, and then no things to play in our hand worth a damn. So let's see. Yeah, I can't even double block the 6/6 and then Unnatural Restoration to get my Paladin back. Which is kind of unfortunate that I'm just one power short of killing that 6/6. Then again, they might be able to just equip the equipment onto a creature next turn with the mana. Re-equip it to something else. No attacks. We're just going to have to pass and hope for the best here. We need to draw some removal, might help. Yeah, there's not much else I can think of that's going to help here. We need removal, and that's basically the one thing we can do. Alright, so this will somewhat help. We can gain some life from this, and we have another big fat creature out, so this is not a bad draw. We shall proliferate and get some life back. They're definitely going to try and kill us with poison counters at this point, so it's not looking good, but we're going to try. The 1/3 reach creature would actually be a decent draw to prevent the observer from getting more toxic on us, so attacks and turn. Okay, so it looks like we're gonna die because they're gonna proliferate some more, get some more poison counters, and we're just gonna die out here. AP3, proliferate. Thirsting Roots, you came a little too late to get me that white mana that I needed, otherwise I could have been attacking in already, so... Okay, well... Yeah, I think we just gotta go ahead and search for the white mana here. Play the Reavor. I think we're still dead next turn because we don't have a reach creature here. But, you know, for the sake of it, let's play out the Reavor. First time I got to play it. Or, actually it's the second time technically, but... I was hoping to use it. But unfortunately the poison counters are going to get me here, so... And this return target permanent card, so is there anything that saves us here? We can get the Dross pits back, I guess, but I don't think that we have enough mana to draw a card or do anything with it anyway, so... Yeah, let's just target the Reavor. Yeah, I think we're probably just dead here. We can't block that, so let's just go in guns a-blazing. Then we can get this thing back. And then we just die next turn. So, unfortunately, did not work out for us for this deck. But, you know what? It happens. We didn't have enough early plays, and it kind of caught up to us. And that's just the way it goes sometimes. Yep. We got poisoned out and died a very horrible death in that game. That was very unfortunate. So, very painful poison death, and I guess a very unfortunate death for, shall we say, our deck almost. We are on live support here. We have 2 losses and 2 wins. We need to go on a winning streak here. So, is there anything I want to put into the deck here? Because we are struggling against the more aggressive type decks here. Is there anything that we can do to change our deck? That's not going to really do anything. And we only have 3 drops here. This can trade as a blocker. Maybe the Bone Picker Scourges are just too slow. Maybe we'll swap out a Bone Picker Scourge for another Hive Master. Hive Master at least blocks slightly better. It can trade, and then you can get a creature out of it anyway. This isn't exactly the best removal against the decks that have been beating us, which are just like go wide aggro type decks. Yeah, because we're not getting poison counters out fast enough for this to really get the corrupted payoff there. So just playing the Hive Master to have more enabling for the toxic and at least being able to trade better against an opponent's creatures could help. So let's go ahead and make that switch here, and then let's go ahead and move on to match number 5. Not to be mixed with mixed up with Mambo number 5. So if anyone gets that song reference there, I also appreciate that. I have a long appreciation for cool 90s songs. Alright, so we have the Atlas for the first time coming in the opening hand for some well-needed fixing and ramping, so that's going to be good. Sadly, we can't play the long legs out on turn 2. We have to wait until turn 4 for that, but this is still a keep, I would think. And then, yeah, we can maybe put the Necrogen on the Hive Master. Maybe we can ramp into something and then use the Necrogen on that. So it's a slow hand because we don't have any starting green mana, but it is a keep. So if we draw a forest or some green mana on this next draw step, then we'll be okay. Another green creature is not what I wanted to see, but we can still get it out on turn 4, so that's going to be okay. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and do Atlas this turn and get it out and going. And then I'm going to go ahead and try and get the Contaminator out. And I can go ahead and get the Injector out with that mana, so don't get the Proliferate value or whatever it is, or the Corrupted value off of that yet, but we'll have to do our best. So thankfully I can block that with my Contaminator. I can also just use the Whisper of the Dross on it as well. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and do, like, I'm not going to be able to equip the Injector onto the Contaminator this turn, but I don't think I'll need it. So let's just do the... Well, then again, I can't get the Proliferate value off of it. This is interesting. No, let's just go ahead and kill their creature now while we can. Let's see if they do like a combat trick to save it. Make them use it. I'd rather make them use the combat trick now, so... And then I can just play the Hive Master to trade with it now. Because the Contaminator's not going to block it, so I can just play the Hive Master instead. And then I can trade with it. So yeah, they can attack in, but they will only trade with the Hive Master, so I assume that they have a combat trick here. But I'd rather make them use it now than use it against the Contaminator or something more valuable, so... Okay, so I can attack him with that, at the very least. And I can give it Toxic 2 with that, so... A Natural Restoration can also get back the Hive Master, or Whisper of the Dross, but this thing is no longer an X1 creature, so it's not going to work with that. Yeah, so I think I just want to do the Bloated Contaminator, and then I can do the equip on the token there to give it even more toxic, so... So yeah, it turns out that Toxic does stack, so if you can stack Toxic onto a single creature, then you can just get that going. Okay, so they're using lots of cards and combat tricks right now, which honestly I'm okay with. I have ways to get back my Contaminator, so that's not the worst thing in the world. Didn't have a chance to do my communion first before they removed my creature, but that's okay. I can do this plus the copper long legs here. Okay, so let's give them another poison counter there. Oh, I guess I forgot that my only source of green mana was the thing I needed to go ahead and get the Contaminator back. That's my bad. Yeah, I don't think I want to use that on the token creature there, so let's just get in for some more toxic damage here. They are more than free to just keep on using combat tricks here to try and kill me. I mean, it's... If I can get out my Contaminator, or even get out my Copper Long Legs and Chump Block, then I can maybe stabilize here, so... Okay, so an Atlas this turn doesn't really help us. We needed a land there, so we could... Green mana is what we needed to play out both the Contaminator and the Long Legs in the same turn, so it's not looking good. So what do? We might have to play the Contaminator. Yeah, that's not going to be enough to drain them out, unfortunately. I could play the Atlas, and then I have 2 mana for the Long Legs, I think. We can just go ahead and do that to get out another blocker at least. It's not really going to drain them out much, if at all, but would have been nice if I could have gotten the, GG's. Would have been nice if I could have gotten the Injector onto the Long Legs, then I could have blocked the 4/4. But unfortunately, you know, it would have taken all my mana, and I wouldn't be able to get out the Atlas to help with my mana next turn. Alright, GG's. They had all the removal and the combat tricks that they needed, so... That's the way it goes sometimes against, again, a more aggressive deck, so... So as it turns out, we had a good late game, but we couldn't get to the late game, and we didn't have the right mana at the right time, so... Sometimes that's what happens, so... So a bit more of a quicker sort of video and a quicker draft because we didn't get many wins, so... And in some of our wins, our opponents kind of conceded early, so... We didn't really get to see the deck at its best, I think, so it's unfortunate, but... Got a couple wins, got a few gems out of it. Hopefully I can get some more gems and gold in the future, so that way I can do some more of these drafting things. So let's go ahead and pop open some packs and see what we get. So for pack 1, pick one, Unctus Grand Meditech. What's this thing do? creatures control, you can rummage and sort of loot through your deck for drawing cards. Maybe you can go well with some discard a card synergies, like whenever you discard a card, you get a secondary effect kind of thing. But overall, pretty good for rummaging through. And you can make creatures artifacts, and you can make them get +1/+1. So good for the blue sort of artifact synergy decks. I'm assuming it would also go well with oil counter decks that go well with artifact decks as well. So pretty good, and you can rummage for cards. This seems pretty good. This is an oil counter synergy card, so it's more of a very specialized card. I wouldn't first pick that, but I might pick it in pack 2 or pack 3 if I have a bunch of oil counter synergies. Charforger, red-black, 2/3, and it makes a token when you play it. And then graveyard from the battlefield. Okay, so you can sacrifice creatures, put oil counters on this, and then you can get semi-card advantage out of it as well with the oil counters, so that's not too shabby if I do say so myself. And then the Scourge, that was a bit too slow for our deck. We didn't have enough early poison counter creatures to get take advantage of that. Another artifact in blue that can occasionally get a 4/4 creature out of it. And then there's attacks. Okay, so this can kind of debuff a creature so you can attack into something much easier in an artifact deck. And then the Lightbringer is a good sort of red-white equipment creature card, so that's not too shabby either. I would probably just go with the Unctus first pick. This seems like a sort of a bomb card where you can just loot through the deck and pump up your artifact creatures and make things artifacts. So seems like a very good synergy card, and drawing cards is always going to be good for free. So okay, so what's in this one? We have a Thrumming Bird in blue. This seems like a good sort of blue card. You get in there, fly over the top, proliferate. You can add in more +1/+1 counters or oil counters, or occasionally you can add in more toxic. And then Porcelain Zealots. Pumps up a creature each combat, and then if it has toxic, it's a +2/+2. Okay. I don't know. This is maybe a bit too slow for the toxic deck. You really need to get some toxic going a bit more earlier, and then the pump effect isn't quite strong enough for a 2/3/4 mana creature. So, and it only pumps up on your own sort of combat, so you can't use it for pumping up a blocking creature, for example. Molten Rebuke. This looks like some expensive but decent removal that can also destroy equipments, and maybe is a decent sideboard card if you're playing best of 3 to play against the red-white equipment decks. And Hazardous Blast, another semi sort of board sweeper type thing, maybe more of a sideboard card against like an aggro deck that has lots of like X1 creatures in it. And another 4 Mirrodin Artifact, which is halfway decent in that archetype. And then Meyer Kinsmith enters the battlefield. Search your library for mirror cards. So this is more of a very specialized sort of deck. Maybe if you have like a Bomby mirror card, then you can just go ahead and play this out, and then you can go ahead and get out the really Bomby mirror card that has like a mirror card type on it, and then you can get it into your hand, play it next turn. So Prophetic Prism is another form of fixing and ramp, or not really ramp, but it is fixing. It draws a card and replaces itself. Very good if you have like a multicolored card that you're splashing for. Doesn't ramp you like the 3 mana artifact that we had does, the Atlas, but very good for fixing if you're splashing like a bomb card. I would probably take the Thrumming Bird out of all these cards. It's a flyer, it's cheap. You can proliferate for it, and it goes well in a lot of deck types, so nice early 2-drop play. So I thank everyone for watching. It was a bit of a disappointment. We went 2-3, but you can't win them all. Might be a little bit before I end up getting enough gems or gold to go ahead and do another draft video, but soon enough, we'll probably get back into the thick of things and do another draft video here. And hopefully over the weekend, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be playing in the Super Bowl, and I hope that they win. Being a fan of that team, as people probably have already seen during my Blood Bowl 2 videos for that team that I'm playing on that one. So everyone knows I'm a Chiefs fan from those videos. But again, thank everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl weekend. And as always, take care.